I am so excited about talking to JeJe Noval today about balancing your gut and hormones. Let me introduce her briefly before I bring her on. JeJe Noval is a registered dietitian and nutritionist serving as an assistant professor in the Department of Nutrition and Dietetics with the School of Allied Health Professions. JeJe also has a podcast and specializes in gut health. JeJe loves to help women heal their reflux and hormonal imbalance issues through the healing of the gut. Additionally, JeJe helps train dietetic students to get camera ready and speak professionally through various media platforms. So, hi, JeJe. Thank you so much for being here and joining us for this discussion about gut health today.
Thank you, Dr. Sekandari. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you.
So I just introduced you a little bit and shared about your background and your expertise in working with gut health and nutrition. Can you share a little bit more about your background and who you serve and the kind of work that you do?
Okay, well, I'll talk about my virtual practice in a second, but for no, not maybe, I know it's been the past 16 years, I have been working as an assistant professor at Loma Linda University teaching medical nutrition therapy. I am the research coordinator of the students. I wear many different hats. And prior to teaching at Loma Linda, I worked as a clinical dietitian at Loma Linda University Medical Center. And then prior to that, I worked as a clinical dietitian at San Bernardino County Medical Center, which is now called Arrowhead Regional Medical Center. And I love teaching the dietitians of tomorrow, but I still love working with clients one-on-one. And so that's why I have a virtual practice in which I work specifically with women who have difficulties with reflux and hormonal imbalances, but working on that, healing those issues or resolving those issues by healing or optimizing their gut health. So that's what I love to do.
So that sounds really good. And I know that gut health is definitely the buzzword of the day now. Everybody's talking about helping heal the gut and optimize gut health, but also it's connected to hormonal balance and mental health. Can you share a little bit about what that connection looks like and how it impacts us mentally as well as physically?
Okay. I'm going to start with a gut-brain connection. So it's amazing that the gut is connected to several systems in our body. So with the gut and brain, there is a bi-directional communication system that God created us with. And so the gut sends messages to the brain sends messages to our gut. And when our gut is out of balance, meaning when there is more pathogenic bacteria than beneficial bacteria, or when there is a decrease in the diversity of the good bacteria, or there is just way less beneficial bacteria, the messages then that it sends to the brain can be quite muffled in a way, so to speak. And when you don't have all of the elements in the gut where it needs to be, that can lead to anxiety, it can lead to depression, moodiness, that type of thing. And so, it is so important to get that gut health strong. And also the brain too, when we don't get enough sleep, that affects our minds. And then that can also communicate to our gut that I'm not feeling good and I'm going to affect you too. So there's that, the gut brain connection. But here's this, which I am also just equally passionate about to let women and of course men know about this too. But when there is a decrease in the diversity of good bacteria, that affects all of the bacteria that specifically metabolizes or breaks down estrogen. Ooh. And so when that happens, when that is affected, that means there is a dysfunction in the estrobolome. The estrobolome is the microorganisms that metabolizes or breaks down estrogen. And when there is a decrease in our good bacteria that is affecting the estrobolome, there is an increase in this enzyme called beta glucuronidase. So that helps with also the transformation of packaging the estrogen so that by the time it's supposed to be excreted out of our systems, it's taken care of. But with high amounts of beta glucuronidase, that affects the estrogen in the way it's being metabolized. And now there's all this excessive amounts of estrogen that is floating around in our bodies. And then that can let us women have more estrogen than what we need, especially those who are still in their childbearing years and a little bit through perimenopause. That affects that, and then it affects the rest of the other hormones like progesterone. So it's like a catch-22. So there's a very strong connection with the gut and the system that actually gets rid of the excess amounts of estrogen. So we need just the right amount of progesterone, estrogen, but that gets affected drastically when it begins with the gut.
Wow, I've never heard it explained that way. There's a lot involved with the gut, and there's the liver involved as well. So all of this can impact
True.
our sex hormones, and
Exactly.
it's such a delicate balance, right? So in what ways are we unknowingly damaging our gut and ultimately messing up our hormonal balance?
That is an excellent question because I wanted to go into that and I'm like, well, that was a lot that I just said. So yes, thank you for asking me that question. So how do we go into that? How do we put ourselves in this place of hormonal imbalance? Okay, well, first off, we do have to acknowledge that some women do have certain genes that puts them at a place of having early menopause. So I fully understand that, and you know that happens for some women, and then some women have to have their uterus removed early on in life, like in their 30s. So that puts them at early menopause. Okay, but if the rest of us didn't have that, let's go back and review the other decades of our lives. And I'm going to use myself as an example. As a teenager, I did not have any problems with acne. But then when I got to college, I thought, oh, you know what? I'm a big girl now, so I need to get more sophisticated with my skincare regimen. And someone gave me a gift set of Clinique, started using it. And it was strange that since then, but I didn't put two and two together because it's a certain skincare, that's supposed to be good for you. But I didn't know. I was in my early 20s. I didn't know that was the beginning of my skin issues. So then what did I do? What do? You usually go to the dermatologist and you say, I have acne. I'm not a teenager anymore, but I'm in my 20s. What should I do? Dr. Nafisa, they put me on every single antibiotic known to man, oral antibiotic known to man to help with acne. Oral, and those didn't work. So they also put me on topical antibiotics. Antibiotics is one of those major medications that can throw off the balance of the gut. And the balance of the gut, we like it to be within normal, and that's called eubiosis. And so eubiosis is having more of the good beneficial bacteria. But when you're on antibiotics, it throws off your balance. So I was on that for a while and I wasn't satisfied. My acne problems weren't going away. And back then, Accutane was so popular. They put me on Accutane 4 times, 4 runs. And I looked it up recently in studies that those who go on Accutane or tretinoin, that also throws off the balance of the gut to go into an imbalance called dysbiosis, gut dysbiosis. So those medications alone unknowingly to me because I didn't know, and we probably didn't really know back then. I'm not going to blame any of my dermatologists because I'm sure they didn't know. They were just trying to help me with the issue that I brought to the forefront. Okay, so those sets of medications can throw off the balance of the gut. Now, I was having really bad periods too. So, what does a young woman do at that time? Go to the doctor or the nurse practitioner. And what do they usually say or do? They'll put you on birth control pills. And I clearly remember being on it for 5 days. And I just thought, oh my goodness, I feel so sick, so nauseated that I just took myself off them. I didn't care how bad my periods were because I thought, I don't like feeling nauseated like this. But I am so thankful to God that I was so sick on those because now we are getting study after study saying that birth control pills, as well as the Mirena or IUD, also, just like antibiotics and just like Accutane, also throws the gut into dysbiosis as well. And so us women think, well, it's supposed to help our monthly cycles. So that's why I'm taking it. But what it actually does is it shuts down our own natural hormone production and it floods our bodies with synthetic hormones like progestin instead of progesterone because the body's thinking, well, I don't need to do all this work of making your own because you're just supplying me with ready to go synthetic hormone. But then the liver is saying, you're giving me an extra load of work to do. This isn't natural. This isn't you. And so not only does birth control pills throw off the balance of the gut into dysbiosis so that it causes further hormonal imbalances later on in life, but because it is involving the liver even more, it makes women more at risk of having high cholesterol levels, cardiovascular disease in all its various forms. So it also affects women cognitively as well too. So I am on a crusade to encourage women who are on birth control pills to get off of it as soon as they can. So that's just one of the, well, that wasn't just one, three of the things: the antibiotics, the Accutane, the birth control pills, and IUD. But we can add steroids onto there, statins. Not all medications cause this, but the ones that I just mentioned, because we didn't know. And so throughout our lives, we thought we're taking care of one issue when we all did not realize up until maybe 10 years ago that this affects every single aspect of our health. And so for women, they think, well, now when I'm into perimenopause, I have more issues with hot flushes and night sweats and disrupted sleep. But it all started back, way back, how we've treated our bodies, what we've been putting into our bodies, the medications that has affected us not only through our hormones, but through reflux, through our digestive issues. So it covers a whole gamut of things. And not only do medications cause these problems, but uncontrolled or unmanaged stress. And, that's always putting us into a state of sympathetic state. So that affects the lining of our gut as well. And toxins from skincare, makeup, shampoos. It's so important to switch all of those out. Otherwise, the toxins, they go through our skin, they make its way into our gut. The food that we eat, if we're choosing more conventional and instead of trying to buy more organic foods, if all that we bought were given to us in plastics, the plastics have BPA, which is bisphenol A. So it's always best to look for BPA-free plasticware and cans. Otherwise, BPA, bisphenol A, is an endocrine disruptor. It disrupts our hormones, especially estrogen. So there are many different avenues that attack this for us, that leads us into gut dysbiosis.
I like to consider my gut bacteria my little soldiers, and there's a
Yes.
reason for that because there is a war going on that little biome of
Ooh,
ours. Like everything you just mentioned, the antibiotics, the toxins in our environment, the toxins we put in our bodies, the pesticides in our food. And also, you probably had hormonal issues to begin with in your 20s, like I did. And
yeah.
instead of for them to really balance our hormones, they went directly for the topical quick band-aid approaches, right? Take the
Mm-hmm.
Accutane, go on birth control pill. And nobody talked to me about balancing my hormones. I learned that the hard way. There's so
Right.
much that we have to think about when it comes to our health and our gut, because like you said, when we're in our 40s and our 50s, 60s, that's when it's going to really hit us, right? And things are
Yeah.
going to start breaking down, but we had no idea that it started so long ago.
Oh, so true. And can I add one thing that I thought, okay, I'm going to be doomed because I'm like, I had gut issues. My periods were horrible, even up until a few years ago, up until I worked on my gut. So, my cousin started talking about her perimenopausal issues, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what is she talking about? I guess I'm at that age. I'm like, I better start doing something because my monthly cycles are bad. But Dr. Sekandari, let me tell you, thank God that I did work on my gut health just a few years ago. And I am not tooting my horn, but I'm just grateful that my cousin told me about her issues because it made me aware, started working on my things. And I am here to say, and I want to encourage all women, what our history was with all of our medications. It's never too late, because last year I turned 50 and I have no issues, no issues going through perimenopause. Thank God. And I know it's because I worked hard on my gut health a couple years ago. I know all of my cousins who are my age, all the women, I mean, bless their hearts. They're making fun of themselves. They have a good, healthy attitude about themselves, but they post on Facebook, I am so hot right now. I'm having a hot flash. And I'm like, oh, and that's my cousin in the Philippines. And I want to say, no, no, I don't give unsolicited nutrition advice, but I want to say no to my cousin. You don't have to be going through that, because there are ways, natural ways for us to take care of ourselves that God has given to us, that He designed us in a way that we are not doomed. It's not a life sentence, that we have to go through difficult times through perimenopause and menopause and postmenopause. There's always hope for everybody to start at any time.
I feel the same way about just anxiety in general. A lot of people feel like, well, this is going to be a lifelong disorder, but it doesn't have to be. If you make the changes, if you commit to prioritizing your mental health, if you balance your hormone, if you heal your gut, all of those symptoms will resolve and you no longer have
Love
to be
it.
dependent on medication and band-aid strategies. So, yeah,
I love it.
exactly. It's the same thing.
Oh, that's so great. Oh, I just love it when I'm talking to other professionals and we're all on the same page about this for all people, not just women, but for men too.
Exactly, and men have hormones, and they go through the
Yes, they
midlife
do.
crisis. Yes. We had a great discussion about the root causes of anxiety, and all this came up, and people are just like, well, I have anxiety, but they're not taking into consideration their lifestyle. They're not checking their blood and seeing where they're deficient. They're not considering the lack of sleep and managing their stress. So what you're saying is all of that also contributes to gut dysbiosis, ultimately
Correct.
leading to hormonal imbalance, liver damage, and it's all connected. It's just one body, one
Ooh,
mind, right?
yes, so true. All connected. But thank God that it's really never too late for anybody. And
And
it's
I say
never
the
too
same
early.
thing. Exactly. It's never too late, and there's no need to suffer needlessly. There's help out there. Get it.
Right. Uh-huh. And people just have to be willing, because sometimes People just want that quick fix. And I am in Facebook groups of these bioidentical hormone groups. I like to see what's going on in there, and the regular synthetic hormone groups. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have that. Of course, it has its place, and I respect people who will choose to do that. But I want to say, what about just trying to work on the root causes that have led to your gut demise? Because if we work on that, then they might not need the hormonal treatment, or they might need less, or it might work synergistically with the treatment that they're on. So I'm not going to tell people not to get on it, but I want to say, what about just trying first or concurrently with your hormonal treatment?
Concurrently, exactly. Just try both and see which one, and then
Mhm.
eventually heal your gut, and maybe you'll no longer will need the other stuff.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yep, I know that women can live a much more enjoyable life in their own skin if they are dedicated to taking care of themselves today.
What really saddens me is the message that even teens receive. I didn't know that cramps were not normal, but the way the commercials were set up is, oh, cramps are totally normal. Just take a Midol, right, or take something
Right.
for the pain. I wish I knew that when your period is the number one indicator of your health, but a lot of people are choosing to completely end it and stop it with hormones and medications, not realizing how damaging that can be long term. And
Yes.
and what a great indicator of health the monthly period is every
Mm,
month. So can you speak a little bit to that, and give some advice
yeah.
for the teens as to appreciating and enjoying their cycles so that it's not debilitating? Because you and I, it sounds like we both had hormonal issues, and so we had the
Yes.
cramps, and we
Oh,
thought that
yeah.
was normal.
Right. Exactly. I was just telling another colleague that recently, that I thought it was normal to be incapacitated once a month and be in pain, having all the cramps, and being put out of commission. And it was seen in a negative light. And now that I'm so much older, but now I'm passing this on to young women now, embrace this life cycle that comes once a month, because that is part of being a woman, to get you ready to give birth one day to another life. But not only for that reason, because some of us may not get married or may not have kids. I'm not married. I don't have kids. Not that I didn't want to, but that's just where life took me. But the monthly cycle is a gift to be able to deal with what's inside of us, in our systems, our reproductive organs. It helps clean it out, so to speak, just to put it in some simple terms. And it helps us function more efficiently. And if we don't go through that on a monthly schedule, then we can run into some issues. We can have high levels of iron that could lead to other medical conditions. So it is a blessing. It is an honor to have a monthly cycle. I'm going through perimenopause, so I don't always get that monthly cycle anymore, that monthly visit, but I'm still embracing this part of womanhood, that this is a gift that I have, which shows that I am able to flourish in more ways than one. And that means when that is working well, the other organs in our bodies are working well too. So trying to suppress that early, ah, that also shuts down other processes of our bodies. And I was reading up yesterday on what happens when we shut down ovulation. And that's what happens when women take the birth control pills. It shuts down ovulation. Then, of course, when you're on the pill, supposedly you're not supposed to get pregnant. But when we artificially stop that process that we have, that we go through, it definitely affects our liver and all the other organs, which can, ooh, my brain just went somewhere else. It also puts women at risk for having IBS, gut issues, GI, medical conditions. So if we're not letting the body run in the way it should and take place the way it should, with releasing this and that from our bodies on a regular basis, we are not allowing our bodies to run optimally in the way that it should for good health. We are given this gift as women. And instead of looking at it as, oh no, Aunt Flo is coming, we don't have to feel that way, because if we are taking care of our gut early on, your periods do not have to slow us down. We don't have to be in pain. We might not, even if you do take care of your gut, it's not like you will just continue to bounce off the walls through that time that the menses are here. But at least you're not as incapacitated. You're not in all that pain. You could have a period come and go. I remember one of my clients not too long ago, she's in her 30s, and we started working on her gut, not for hormonal health. It was just because she was just not feeling good. She was feeling tired, having the brain fog. But after the first month and a half of working with me, she goes, oh my goodness. And again, she's in her 30s. Oh my goodness, I've never had a period where I felt so good. Like it just came. And I wasn't even expecting that. And then the second month we were working together, the exact same thing. So I'm so happy for her, because that wasn't like the initial things. Okay, what are the goals on that you would like us to work on together? We didn't even think about her cycle. It was just the brain fog and helping her have more energy, because she also has thyroid issues too. So she's in a much better place now. And I'm excited that she is enjoying her periods. If we can think of our periods as we can still enjoy our periods even through this time, and know that's a special time given to us women, that it has to happen to keep us healthy, then we would go through each of our periods in a much better mindset, a mindset of gratitude. When we go through all of this, saying, okay, Father, thank you so much for this opportunity to have this monthly cycle that works really well, because it means that one day, if I will have a child, I will be able to. And if it doesn't happen, it still means that I'm able to accomplish so much, because I'm able to have good energy to help me accomplish what I need to accomplish in taking care of people and serving others all around me. So yes, that's what I would love to encourage young women and women of all ages, not just the young women, but the women in my age too, in my age bracket, and those who are before me too. So we can all embrace every stage of life. And as I'm getting out of it, I'm going to say, okay, I'm grateful I had that.
Well, we abuse our bodies and we don't take care of it. We shut down our hormones, we shut down our ovulation. And then when we're ready to have a baby, we are surprised that we have infertility at that point, right? And so a lot of people don't even understand the benefits of a period, and how, as women, like, we don't have to give blood because, like you said, we're cleansing every month. But like a man will have to go donate blood twice a year just to remove all that buildup, where we don't have
Exactly.
to do that. There are so many benefits that I never learned about when I was younger.
Same here.
So can you speak about that whole not taking care of ourselves and then having infertility, and what it's on the rise right now. So many people are struggling to conceive. Can you speak a little bit about that and the
Right.
connection to care, to healthcare?
Yes, indeed. So true. Okay, so us women, true, as Dr. Sekandari said, when we shut down our ovulation for years, it's going to take a while for our body to say, "Hey, oh, you need me to make to have a baby now, to produce a baby now." And whew, while that was shut down for a while, when ovulation was shut down, everything else with the estrobolome has also been it has been going downhill in its function. So dysfunction has been taking place. And that dysfunction in the estrobolome, because of us not taking care of ourselves, and there's an increase in inflammation throughout our bodies. We're not eating correctly, not getting enough sleep, not doing the self-care that we need to manage our stress. That does lead to infertility, all those all together, with the estrobolome being negatively affected, estrogen levels and progesterone not in the right ratio, that can affect the ability of a woman to have a child too. And then other ways that people don't take care of themselves is they say, I eat well, but a lot of what we eat affects our gut, our estrobolome, and some people actually take that to the extreme because they read somewhere that this is how you're supposed to eat, especially when they say, oh, I eat clean, or they take certain diets or meal plans to an extreme. I know this is very touchy because I know for some people it can help, but if you take the ketogenic diet to an extreme too, that can affect the gut, which then can affect fertility as well. So when we don't take care of ourselves because we are so fixated on being skinny, our weight, we are very fixated on body image. So we sacrifice the food that we put into our bodies and how well we nourish our bodies. Well, I don't like to say this, but this is the honest truth, that when we restrict ourselves from nutrients that our bodies need, that affects the balance of our gut. And because, as we mentioned at the beginning, there is a gut and brain connection, eventually that also affects our mental outlook too. And then that gets affected even more. And then it goes back to the gut because it's bidirectional. And then it also adds on having GI medical conditions as well. And then all that will just lead into having difficulty to be able to conceive and having a child. So if a lady has been doing this to her body for years because you just didn't know, these were the medications you were told to be on, what have you, and nobody ever showed you that or told you that you are beautiful the way that you are valuable the way that you are. Our worth is not found in our weight or the shape of our bodies. Nobody ever told you that, but you have that support now, and you now know that you are worth it. You are valuable, finding your worth in being a child of God. And you know that you are beautiful on the inside and on the outside. All of these things, when you get your mindset to be at a beautiful place, then that also helps your gut work better, and it decreases your stress as well. You also improve your relationship with food, and you improve your relationship with yourself. All that is part of the gut healing process. And then your body will be able to relax and help you produce that long awaited child that you have been wanting. So it is possible, but it's not just one thing, it's many different aspects. How we nourish ourselves, how we eat, our relationship with food, our relationship with ourselves. And all that works together in helping heal our gut. And then fertility can also be restored when all of that is practiced and put into place.
Wow, really good stuff there. As a dietitian and a nutritionist, what foods would you recommend, or what are some steps that we can take to actually work on healing our gut? Like you said, it's not too late. We have all probably damaged ourselves somehow, but when you know better, you do better, right? Like Maya Angelou said. So
Absolutely.
how can we moving forward? How can we improve our gut and balance our
Mhm.
hormones? What are some suggestions that you have?
Yeah, I always would encourage all of my clients at first to remove any high inflammatory foods temporarily, just temporarily. I'm not about forever stay away from this or that. No, 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 no. Just temporarily stay away from high sugar, high refined and added sugared foods, sweets, cakes, donuts, pies. I'm not saying forever, just for like at least 3 weeks to help bring down the inflammation. Dairy is another area in which that's also a pro inflammatory rich food group. So I say go dairy free and also refined sugar free for a few weeks. Allow the body to just calm down and then really think more about what else can I add? And that's what we need to think about when we're eating well, not necessarily the subtractions. It's all about the additions. So if we are able to, and I love to encourage every listener to do this, if we can try every week to get close to 30 different plant-based food items every week, that includes even your herbs and your spices. Each thing is considered one plant-based food source. And you just experiment every now and then and say, I haven't had parsnips ever or turnips. If your culture didn't include that, so you might not be eating that as you were growing up. Say, I'm just gonna deviate and try a new vegetable or a new fruit or a new nut every week, but just try to increase our plant-based food sources because that gives us a lot of the prebiotics. That is the food to our good bacteria in our gut. So we need to work on that first. Yes, I'm all for probiotic rich foods, but I don't think we should jump in there yet if we are not putting in the food that will feed the good bacteria. So I say, let us really emphasize working on diversifying our good bacteria by increasing different types of plant-based foods during the week, close to 30. And that makes such a big difference in increasing diversity in the good bacteria in our gut.
You're right. It's like when we keep eating probiotic rich foods, it's like sending our soldiers to a war zone that's toxic, right? They're gonna come back more injured or dead or
So
just not
true.
healthy. So we have to make sure that our gut biome is healthy and it's a thriving environment, and then we can eat the probiotics or send in the extra reinforcement, right?
Absolutely. I love that. Love your analogy there of your soldiers. I'm going to also use that too from here on out if you don't mind.
Of course. And what do you think about supplements? Are there some supplements that you recommend?
Yes, for all women, I absolutely believe that magnesium, especially magnesium glycinate, because that has such a calming effect on us. It helps with anxiety, it helps with sleep. And I recommend anywhere between 300 to 400 milligrams a day. I take mine at night. And for us women, especially during that luteal phase, our magnesium levels tend to dip down. So I take it every day. And I encourage all my clients, if there's a supplement to start off with, that's the one, along with vitamin D. Vitamin D is so helpful for the immune system and for gut health. I have been reading studies recently that it says, oh, it also helps push our gut balance into eubiosis. So it tries to really push our gut into having more of the beneficial bacteria, in addition to it being an anti-inflammatory, immune boosting, especially going through COVID times. It doesn't hurt to do at least 2,000 IUs per day. So those are the two.
What do you think about Vitex for hormonal balance? I know it's a very old herb that people have used. Chaseberry Vitex. What do you think about that?
Can you please refresh my memory? Somebody was mentioning this recently, Vitex. What else is in there? Chaseberry?
Well, it's just called either chasteberry or vitex, but it's called
Mhm.
chasteberry because a group of nuns a long time ago, it used to grow near a convent. And when a bunch of women get together, their hormones sync together, and so there was a lot
Yes.
of mood issues. And so they used vitex. Thousands of years, women have been using this herb. And so
Mm.
it's a
Yeah.
wonderful herb to balance hormones. And I know I needed it when I was balancing my hormones when I was diagnosed with endometriosis. And I'm a huge fan of it, but I was just wondering what you think.
Wow. You know what? I have heard of it, but I haven't looked into it. So I don't want to say anything wrong about it right now, but I need to look into it more. Other people have mentioned that, the chasteberry, as you mentioned, but I'm all for herbs too. And there are so many that are so helpful with hormonal health that if it doesn't have studies that show toxicity, then I'm all for it. So I need to do my homework on the Vitex, the chasteberry.
There's a book I recommend to all my patients, and this is actually an old book, and it really helped me when I was going through what I was going through. I was a student when I got diagnosed with endometriosis, and I
Wow.
had just graduated and I hadn't started my job, so I didn't have insurance. I had a 10-centimeter cyst on my ovary, and I
Oh,
couldn't have surgery.
wow.
And the doctors were saying I have to get it out, otherwise it might explode and then cause all the scar tissue. So I didn't have insurance. I didn't have the money for surgery. So I went and found this book called Herbs for Health and Healing. And it's written by a registered nurse. It's an old book. You can find it on Amazon. It's
Okay.
amazing. And
Ooh,
I
nice.
learned so much about using different herbs. Like I remember as soon as I got that book, I followed the recipe for it was an endometriosis tea, and I went and bought every herb that
Oh,
was recommended, and I did that for a year until I could get my surgery. And by the time I had the surgery, the cyst hadn't grown, it didn't erupt, nothing happened. My
really?
hormones were balanced. It was amazing.
Amazing. Wow. So the cyst, did it get any smaller though?
No, but it was already so huge that I don't think it would
Okay.
have.
Yeah.
The solution was surgery, and then
Yeah.
when they did the surgery, because with endometriosis, infertility is a huge
Mhm.
risk because of the damage that the cyst can do on your
Yeah,
ovaries.
that's true.
So I wanted to make sure I stayed as healthy as possible. I mean, I know I wouldn't recommend doing this for. I mean, I wouldn't recommend this for other people, but this was just an experiment I tried on myself,
Oh,
and the herbs and the education I got from that book was just priceless. And I learned so much about using ancient herbs to balance
mhm.
my hormones, manage my cramps, because I had such terrible cramps. I would be
Yeah,
debilitated,
right.
and just learned a lot of really good strategies from that book.
That is wonderful. I'm gonna have to look into the chaseberry and add that tool to the bag for sure, because there's so many good herbs and other supplements like that that can help without the
Definitely.
side effects.
Definitely. And I recommend that to a lot of my patients, especially teenagers that are thinking about going on birth control. And I just caution them against it and say, try the Vitex instead and see if that makes a difference. And a lot of times it does.
Nice. Okay, I'm excited. I am so excited to learn more about that. Thank you for opening up my mind to that, because I always hear it, but I've just never paused to look into that. So I should.
I
Mhm.
mean, there's a lot of ancient wisdom that we've forgotten about. We've become so dependent on
True.
pharmaceutical companies, but we need to look at some of the wisdom of the past and
Absolutely.
learn from it.
There's a lot of value there, and we should not bury it or forget it, but use it. So thank you for bringing this one to my attention.
Oh, anytime, no problem. So, knowing what you know now about everything
Mhm.
we just talked about, obviously, we both have had issues as teens and young adults. And
Right.
what would you say to yourself, to your younger self, about caring for your gut, caring for your hormones? What's some advice that you would give to your younger self about everything you've learned?
That's interesting that you just asked me that, because I think it was just the other week that I put a post on Instagram what I would have told my younger self about acne. And the first thing that I put there was run far away from people who will give you antibiotics and Accutane. So, yeah, That is one thing I would say. And I will say that when you're a teenager or a young person, because I went through acne, and when you're going through that stage in life, you're thinking about how you look and how you look to others. And that's a big deal. And, I'm not going to suppress that or tell any young person, or if I could go back to my young self and say, hey, you know, don't worry about your looks. It's the inside, there's a balance there. And I would have told my younger self to not do the antibiotics, but to try to avoid as much as possible, any type of medications, unless I am dying, then I will take those medications. But if I'm given medications to take care of an issue that I have that has to do with an outside appearance, I will look for a more natural way to take care of things. So for me, my acne, I would like to say, you know what? Let's look at those high inflammatory foods, and let's look at really what are the variety of foods that you're eating. Because yes, I was a vegetarian when I was much younger, but just because I was vegetarian, was I really eating well? So I would like to tell my younger self, you know what? You could have been adding a whole lot more vegetables, covering the colors of the rainbow. You could have done a much better job with that. Yes, you did eat fruits, but you could have done a whole lot better by consuming a variety of fruits and just really exploring with the different foods that are out there. And I would have loved to tell myself to prioritize sleep. I was the type that would just stay up late until the wee hours of the night because I have to study. I was very studious, but I wish I could have gone back to myself and say, you know what? You are actually affecting your gut health by not getting at least 7 hours of sleep every night. Through college, and yeah, I was like, no, I got to study, study, study. There's a balance, and I wish I could go back and tell myself that, but I'm telling young people now, cherish and honor your sleep, because that is connected to your gut health. And I would just tell myself, really, to just love myself as is, and not to be so conscientious about, oh, am I staying skinny or not? That was ridiculous. I look back at those years now and I'm like, yeah. But to really show more love, kindness, and compassion to my own self, to my own body, which instead of just shaming myself for how skinny I looked and all that, that affects the gut too. We don't think it does, but then that affects our eating. We don't eat well. We end up having disordered eating. And then when we have disordered eating, it affects our gut health. So I would like to say, just love yourself, accept loving yourself, because God loved me first. And so the only way that I can help others is if I take care of me and love me and get my sleep. I was already exercising, so I probably would have told myself, don't overdo it, because I was overdoing it. Over exercising, overtraining also throws the microbiota off. So I would have said, don't get so obsessed, because before that mindset was wait. Was my weight staying skinny? That was all disordered. So I would like to say, hey, back off and enjoy exercising. Don't let it be so militant that I used to think the harder, the better. So I would like to also tell myself, just enjoy moving it. Let it always be like play. You don't have to exercise for hours. Whew, I look back at my life and I see how I saw things through a different lens. And I would like to just tell myself, just chill and enjoy taking good naps if need be.
I think we all wasted our skinny years thinking we were fat, right?
Right. I know, seriously. Ay.
But I'm also really concerned. One thing you said, the over-exercising is making a lot of teens stop their period and lose their
True.
period. And so It's all connected, like you said, the excessive exercising, the stress that's associated with that, the stress hormones that are released when we're saying negative things to ourselves. So being kind, being gentle, everything in moderation is so important. That's really great advice. I wish we could go back and tell ourselves all that, right?
I know, right? Aw.
Well, thank you so much for this conversation. I've learned so much, and it was such a really wonderful discussion. And I hope it becomes beneficial for those listening. Where can people find you and
Okay.
connect with you?
Okay. So I'm on Instagram a lot. So I am there always. And my handle is at Live Gut Better. And all of my social media handles are Live Gut Better. But you can also contact me through my website, which is simply just JeJeNoval.com. So that is JeJeNoval.com.
Oh, wonderful. I'm sure everybody's going to want to follow you and learn more from you regarding gut balance. Thank you for coming and making the time to be here and having this conversation. It was wonderful.
Yes. Oh, and thank you, Dr. Sekandari. It was so delightful to talk to you. And I love learning from you too. So it goes both ways. Thank you.